Hello everyone, and thank you so much for painting with me today. We will be painting step by step all together the San Antonio Riverwalk. So we're going to take it step by step, brush by brush as we go along. If you want to change any of the colors on this one, like on your little umbrellas or on the buildings, things like that, you are welcome to. Speaking of colors, let's take a look at what we have. We have our little palette of paint. This top plate is going to be a really good plate to mix some paints on. And we have these little cups of paints. We can take off the tops and we can scoop a little color onto that empty plate. So I did just that, and we have some white and black. We have a dark blue, a red, a brown, kind of a reddish brownish terracotta color, yellow, and green. We also have some brushes here, so we'll need a large, a medium, and a small brush. We're going to start with our large brush. We'll also need a paper towel to dry off our brushes and any cup with water so we can wash our brushes. And lastly, each of our little kits came wrapped in some paper. So that paper is really good to spread it out and lay your canvas on top of, just so you won't get anything else painty. So we are going to start with our biggest brush, and we're going to fill in our sky. So let's find our biggest brush. Let's give it a little dip in the water, get things flowing. We'll tap on the paper so it's not all drippy. And we're going to find our dark blue. So we're going to get a little of our dark blue, and we're going to start up here in our sky. So we're going to go around our buildings. If you need to go to one of your smaller brushes at any point, go for it. We're going to smooth out our paint. If you want to paint around the little branches, you can, but it's okay to cover over those also. We'll put them back with a dark brown later. Don't worry too much about your brush strokes. Smooth it out. We're going to fill in all of our background, smooth out your color. Now, if those brush strokes are bothering, to smooth them out, really long brush strokes. So kind of find one edge, go all the way to the other edge without lifting, and that'll smooth it out for you. Once you have all of your background filled in, you can also, if you want a little bit more of a texture to your brush strokes, you can also twirl your brush. And that gives you kind of a cool, kind of swirly look in your sky. We're going to fill in all of our background. You can go over that little antenna. That's okay, we'll go around this little antenna, so there's a little bit more of a space in between. Okay, so once we have all of our sky filled in, while we still have this dark blue on our brush, we're also going to wrap it around, and wherever we have blue on the front, we're going to wrap it around and match it to the side edge. So I'll bring it down just to about there. We'll bring that other color around. When we get there, we're going to get all this top part. And then we're going to get this little piece on the side. So while we have the dark blue on our brush, we're also going to come down over here underneath our little bridge, and we're going to fill in all of our water. So we're going to go side to side brush strokes. We're going to fill in all the way up to our little umbrellas. And on this side, if you're missing a little line like I am, I'm going to give it a little angle right underneath that tree. And then you can paint everything underneath here. So just give yourself just like a little line, and then fill in everything in front of that tree. I'm going to cover up all that white space, and everything is going to be that same dark blue. So now that we have all of our water filled in, we're going to add a little shadow on the top. So it's a little darker underneath that bridge. Don't need to wash off your brush, you can keep that blue on there. But we are going to grab a little bit of black paint. So I'm going into my black paint, just a little bit. And I'm going to make myself a little line. I'm going to bring this a little closer. So I'm going to find my second umbrella right there. About halfway on that second umbrella, I'm going to give myself a little line. I'm going to take it all the way across, and I'm going to fill in everything above this line. I'm going to fill in everything above that line. And just a little bit, we're going to blend that line out. So once you have that all filled in, I'm going to wash off my brush and dry off my brush. And I'm going to go back into a little bit more dark blue, just by itself. And we're going to give that a little blend. Right now we have kind of a line. We're going to soften that line. I'm going to bring this a little closer again. So this edge between my blue and black, I'm going to place my brush flat, so it's kind of on the widest part of the brush, half on my blue, half on my black. Going along that edge, I'm going to go back and forth, follow the edge back and forth till you start to see that line fading, blending, and then I'm going to bring it down into the blue a little bit. Fade it out. Don't worry if more of that black kind of goes down a little further, because we're going to let this dry a little bit. We're going to come back and we're going to put a little highlight on our water once that's a little bit more dry. Once it's as blended as you like, I'm going to wash off my big brush, dry it off, And we're going to fill in our little building next. So for my building color, and it's okay if you want to change it, but I'm going to show you on my sample here. I'm going to use a little bit of this kind of terracotta color, this kind of reddish brownish one, just by itself. And I'm going to fill in that whole entire building. I'm going over the lines. You'll be able to see through your paint and still see those lines. Don't worry. Just smooth it out so you can see them. I'm filling in that rooftop also. And I'm going right to the edge of my little umbrellas. Right to the edge of my tree. Smooth out your paint, spread it out. While I have this color on my brush, let's get that little side edge, if you haven't done so already. So this little empty spot, we're going to fill in with this color. You can do a little bit on the bottom if you want. There we go. Cool. We're gonna let that dry for a while. We'll come back and put some little windows and things on it. But let's jump over here to our bridge, and we're gonna put on kind of the little base layer of that part. So I'm gonna use brown just by itself. Just by itself. And we're gonna come over here and we're just gonna fill in that whole bridge. So while I have that brown on my brush, stained brush there, I'm going to go over here to my little building and I'm going to add on a few little rooftop tiles. So for that, I'll bring it a little closer. I'm just going to make kind of little square shapes. If you want to use your smaller brush, definitely can. So I'm just making little square shapes. We're going to layer some more on in a little bit too. But while we have this color, I'm overlapping them. I just want to give it a little texture. So I'm making just little square shapes. We're going to let that dry for a little while. While we're letting that dry, let's go over here to our buildings and then to our umbrellas. And we're going to fill those guys in. I'm going to keep using my big brush, so I washed it off, I dried it off. On this one, I'm going to do a lighter green. So I'm going to grab a little bit of white, let's go over here to my green, a little bit of green and white mixed together. It gives you a nice little minty color. I'm going to fill in my building here. It's the Tower of Life building, right? I'm going to fill it in. You fill it over those lines, that's okay, we're going to outline it later. If you need to use your smaller brush, go for it. I'm going to wash off my brush, dry it off, fill in my next building. So my big Tower of Americas, I'm just going to do yellow just by itself. I'm going to get some yellow just by itself and I'm going to fill in all my tower. Make that little 10 of there. Smooth out your paint. Don't need much paint on your brush. Now, while I have some yellow on my brush, I'm gonna come down over here and I'll fill in maybe one of my umbrellas. And then we can fill in our other umbrellas. So I'm gonna make this one maybe a little bit lighter blue. I'm gonna do a little bit of white, a little bit of blue. Also a really pretty kind of alternate color. You add a little bit of red. Get a nice purpley, kind of like a lavender or periwinkle. I'll do that one. I'm gonna fill in that little umbrella. My next one is gonna be pink. And you can definitely do different colors. Whichever ones you like. Smooth out your paint. I'm gonna wash off, dry off. And I'm getting a little bit of white. Scooting it over here by my red. We're gonna mix up a little pink color. There we are. So I have kind of pinky tone. It's gonna be my next one. If you wanted to do like an orange, that's gonna be mostly that yellow and a little bit of red. Let's see what other color? Yeah, purple. I'm gonna do this one. You can either do a green or a red, whichever one you like best. I'm gonna do a green for my last one. So I'll kind of borrow from this light green. I like that light green that we mixed up for our top building. And I'll fill in that one. So we're gonna let those guys dry for a while. And let's come back over here to our water and add on that little bit of a shine. So I'm gonna switch to a medium brush. So not your biggest, not your smallest, my medium one. And I'm gonna mix up a lighter blue. So right over here, I'm gonna get some white and some blue. I'm gonna mix them together. Take a light blue that I like. Maybe a little bit more blue than white, just so these aren't too bright. And take off all that extra paint. So we're gonna imagine that our little river barge has just gone through. We have these little waves kind of lapping over here behind it. So we're gonna make kind of two rows, one over here, one over here. I'll show you what I mean. So I'm gonna start with this light blue color, kind of right where the black starts to fade. So maybe about halfway on that second umbrella. And I'm gonna do little sweepies back and forth on one side. Keep grabbing more paint whenever it gets real scratchy. A little bit more. That keeps your marks a little bit thinner. And if you do want to use that little small brush, go for it. That's okay. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. A little closer. So I'm going to start here, sweeping back and forth. Little waves. Now at any point, if you want to soften any of these marks, maybe they got a little brighter than you'd like, you can always go back to a little bit of dark blue back on your brush and kind of sweep over those. Get that little bit of white while I have it. And that'll soften. A little dark blue if you want to blend it a little bit more. And then we're gonna put that little highlight, that little shine right in the middle. So I'm gonna get a little bit of white paint this time, right in the middle. I'm gonna start a little shorter, not as wide, and then I'll get wider as I get closer to the viewer. That's just gonna push the perspective a little bit more. So it's kind of shorter, not as long on the top, and then it's gonna grow out longer at the base. And we're all done with that part. So before we add on our trees and branches, let's outline our buildings first. I'm gonna find my smallest little brush, and my example has it outlined in white paint, but you could definitely do it in black paint also, whichever way you prefer. I'm gonna show you my example, and so I'm gonna do white. With my smallest little brush, if you want it a little pointier, I'm gonna grab a little bit of paint, and then I'm gonna kind of twirl it in the paint, kind of twirl and drag. And that's gonna make the tip of your brush a little pointier. So it's like you're sharpening your brush. It's gonna help with outlining. And then I'm gonna take it slow as I outline. I'm just following all those little Sharpie lines. So I'm gonna start with this guy. You'll notice that as you go along, you'll kind of run out of paint pretty quick, and you'll start to get kind of scratchiness. So instead of pressing harder, just keep grabbing more paint as you go along, a little at a time. Take it slow, there's no rush. Gonna go around all those little edges, a little at a time. Gonna go over that little antenna and do the same on the tower. So while we are outlining things, let's go over here to our little building and to our umbrellas and outline those guys next. So I am going to do that in black paint, and a little trick for that. So whenever you're outlining something in a really dark color, like black, I'm going to get a little bit of my color and I'm going to scoot it off to the side. And I'm actually going to add a little water to this. So I'm going to take my brush, I dipped into water, there's a little drippy there, I'm going to get another little one, going to add it, and then I'm going to mix it into that little pile. So I got a couple little drips of water in there and I'm mixing it in. And it's going to look a lot more flowy, what you want. And then we're going to do that sharpening trick. Take off all that extra paint you don't need. And that's just going to make it so that you don't have to press as hard. And you'll still get a nice little line. Just flows along like ink. So we're going to go over here to the edge of our building. Watch out for those guys, they're still drying. And I'm following my Sharpie lines. I'm gonna follow the bottom of my rooftop. I'm gonna follow this line, the edge of my building, little corner. These are like the little lattice, and maybe the little balcony. Following those. Arm. Now on this little piece right here, I'm gonna add those little cross beams, because maybe this is a little lattice, maybe that's the fencing of the balcony. So we're gonna do little lines going up and down, connecting those two lines. Over here we're gonna match that angle, whatever you can see. There we go. And then we'll need some windows. So you can make your windows as big or small as you'd like, whatever you have space for. So since this is kind of a smaller version of this one, we have a little less space, but that's okay. I'm gonna do maybe one window here, and I'll do two windows there. So I'll do one window first. I'm gonna make a little line to start, and then I'll do a little gumdrop on top, and we'll fill it in. We're gonna do that same little thing. We'll need a little bit more paint, but we'll do the same thing on this side. Set that down. Gonna get a little bit more paint. Follow that angle. Follow that angle for your lines at the bottom. 1, 2. If you make these a little smaller, you can probably fit a third if you wanted. And I'll do little gumdrops on top. And I'm gonna fill them in. If you want to do another one down here, you can. The little guy. And if you want maybe like the top of one, we can do like the top of one over here. Again, whatever you have space for. Don't have to put all these if you don't want to, or if you don't have the room for it. That's okay. Gonna let those dry. We'll come back, put more details. And while we have black on the small brush, let's fill in, or outline rather, our little umbrellas. So just like we did for those guys, we're using the same brush, same kind of watered down black paint. Watch out for other paint. I'm gonna follow my edges to start. Take it nice and slow. And as you go along, if any of these pieces just need a little bit extra time to dry, just give them a little time, pause the video, give them a little bit of time, and then they won't smoosh as much. Or if you have a blow dryer at home, you can blow dry it. Set that layer real quick. I'm going to do a little line going across the top, right, and then we're going to do little fringes on the bottom of the umbrella. I'm going to bring that a little closer so you can see a little better. So I outlined all around, I did a little line going across, and then little fringes up and down. I'm going to do that for all the rest. If you wanted to do like a different little design, definitely could. I'll show you some different ones. So we could do that. But at the bottom, we could also do like a little wavy edge. That'd be cool. We can do a little pokey on the top. We could do some little lines on the top if you wanted. You could write a word, do a design, whatever you like. These are your umbrellas. Okay, we are ready for some trees. So for trees, let's use our medium brush for this guy. We'll use our small brush for maybe some smaller branches over here. But we'll start with our medium brush for our trunks. So I'm gonna take my medium brush and I'm gonna find my brown. I'm gonna scoot over some brown. I'm gonna add a little bit of black to it. So I'm gonna mix it in. A little bit of black. A little at a time to get like a nice melty chocolate brown. And then I'm gonna add just a tiny bit of white to it. And that just makes it go a little smoother over the blue in the background. Because adding white to a color makes things a little bit more opaque, a little see-through. So I mixed mostly brown, a little bit of black at a time, a little bit of white. See what you think. So once you have a color that you like, we're gonna start over here in the trunks of our trees and we'll just fill them in. I want it different from my bridge, so I might need a little bit more white mixed into mine. Mix it all together. A little bit more. Yeah, that's looking good. So I'm filling in all this little trunk of the tree. I'll take it into these first two branches, a little Y shape. After that, I think we'll go small brush, so hang tight for those. Let's fill in this guy over here. If there's any spots of that brown that are still kind of see-through, just let it dry a little bit and then put another little layer and that'll help, because kind of the more you go over the same spot, the more it'll just kind of keep pulling up some paint. Just let it dry. So I'm switching to my smallest brush. I'm going to keep using this tree brown that we mixed up. It's kind of brown, black, white mixture. Right out on some branches. So, just like this first one that was drawn out kind of forks out into a Y shape, that's what we're going to keep doing. We're going to keep forking out into kind of Y shapes or V shapes. You can make it longer if you like, so just kind of grab it from where it stopped. And we can bring it along a little bit further. So I'm kind of thinning it out, because trees always look the most treat when they grow thicker at the base to thinner where they end up, so they kind of taper out. Wherever you want a smaller branch to happen, follow that first branch a little bit and then go out. Just give yourself a little sketch and then you can fill it in a little thicker. It's kind of scratchy. I'm gonna keep doing that. We don't need a ton of branches. We just need some places to hang some lights, maybe. Y shapes, V shapes. You want another one? Y shape, V shape. And kind of spread them out. So if I wanted another one over here, I wouldn't want to put it like right here, but I could go a little higher or I could go a little lower. So kind of spread them out, different spots. We're going to do the same on the other side. I put a lot of branches, but I don't have to put that many. I just like making trees a lot. Put a little guy over here. So we're gonna let that dry for a little while. So we still have this little space over here to fill in, and I'm gonna go in with a light brown. If you want to do it like this is kind of like the dirt underneath the little plants that are gonna grow over there. But if you want to put that just solid green and then put different types of green on top, it's like very lush over there, like very green. We can do green or we can do a light brown for a little ground color. I'm gonna do a little light brown. So on a new spot, I'm gonna get some white and brown, this time just by themselves. A little bit more white than brown, because this brown's pretty dark. If you want to scoot in a little of that reddish brownish color, that wouldn't hurt. Whatever you like. So I have a light brown, and you can cover over that line, that's okay. It's kind of like the little pathway going right up to that little edge of the water, right up to my tree. I'm gonna fill it all in. If you like this color, you have it on your brush, you can also add a few more little rooftop tiles. The more brown's better on there. This is with that medium brush. I'm gonna add that on there. Let that dry a bit. Now let's add some bricks onto our bridge. Now for the bricks on the bridge, we're gonna go kind of opposite. We're gonna go a little bit darker brown. So kind of like our trees, but without the white. We're gonna do mostly brown. I still have my medium brush and some black. I want it darker than my bridge is my goal. And do a little test if you need to see if it's a little darker. That kind of looks like about there. It's pretty dark. And then we're going to make a little line going all the way across right at the bottom of that little bridge. So I'm gonna follow the very bottom of the bridge and I'm taking it all the way across. Just take it slow. Grab more paint. There we go, so it's a little darker. So above that, we're gonna add some little bricks, same color, same medium brush. And I'm gonna make little rectangles and leave a little space in between that little rectangle. All the way across in that in-between space. Going all the way across. And then while you have that dark brown, again, if you want to add any more little rooftop tiles, you can. You can cover over any little light spots, want a little darker, things like that. And last place we're gonna add this dark brown is if you want to on your trees, like a little tree bark. Switch down to your smallest brush, same dark brown. And I'm just gonna do just a few little wavy lines. There we go. And so I'm gonna drag it along, add some little wavies. This is also a nice color if you want to carve a little something into your tree, like a little heart, a little initial, whatever you like. Just to give a little extra texture, a little more tree-like. If any of these lines get a little darker than you like, just let them dry a little while, and you can just go over them with that first tree color, that lightish brown one that we initially did the trees. Do the same thing on this one. So let's switch to our medium brush again, and we're going to start getting into our greenery. So we're going to mix up a few different greens. We're going to start with green and white mixed together. This is going to be a nice little base color. So on my little edge of green, I'm going to get a little bit more white. Scoot that over, mix it together. Take it a light green again. And let's start in our trees. So I'll show you a couple different ways, see which way you like best. So kind of that little style there is kind of, if you think of like little commas. Comma. Go in different directions. I'm doing these mostly on the very tops of the trees, and I'm going in between, so they don't have to exist on a branch. They can be kind of floating a little bit more in between, and that just makes your tree look a little bit more full. You can go right over your building if you have a little branch going that way. And we're going to put some more greens on this, some different types of greens. It's going to give a little bit more depth and dimension. We're gonna go all the way around, all around, all around. Again, mostly the tops. You can also do, and I'll show you on this side, dabby style. So you can kind of tap it on also. Just a different way of doing the same. Again, more on the tops, not so much at the little forks. So it's kind of a fun way to do it too. You can do a combination if you wanted. When and when I can do it. A little guy right there, maybe? Well, that's okay. And I know this light green is very similar to this hill building, so at this point you won't really be able to see those leaves if it's on top of that light green building, but when we put our other greens we will. So while I have this light green on this medium brush, I'm going to show you a couple different ways we can make little grasses and things. So on that one, we don't have as much space on ours, but we can do a smaller version. So, like a little bush. So I'm going to make little curvy shapes, like C's. Leave a little space for your other greens. That's where it's really going to come together. So I did little curvy shapes. And then on these guys, I'm going to find my smallest little brush, because we can make little pokey grass. Again, same color. Getting point, I'm kind of twirling and twisting, making that brush kind of pointy. And wherever you want a little grass to be, start on the very edge and go up, up, up. So I'm sweeping up, up, up. You can have like little grasses in front of your tree, on the edge. And again, keep grabbing more paint on your brush whenever you notice it's getting a little bit scratchy. A little bit more paint. You can also water it down too when you're trying to get a really thin little line like grass. You can add a little water to it. It might help flow it along. So you can fill in this whole little space with grass if you want to leave a little pathway, like a little sidewalk. You can leave a little space open. I'm going to do some more grasses poking out over here maybe. All around. So my next green that we're going to layer is going to be, and I switch back to my medium brush, is going to be green and yellow. A little bit more yellow than green, because that green really takes over. It's going to give you this really cool kind of avocado green color. And we're going to add this color wherever we added our other green. So just amongst. So in between, on top, however you did it the first time, we'll just do it the same on that side. So more commas on that side, more tappies on this side, just amongst. Just a little bit here and there. We can add it to this little bush over here. Good amount of paint on that guy though. And then we can add some to our little grasses. Oh, well, let's switch brush. Back to our tiny little grass brush. A little pointier. And we can add some different colored grasses all around. There we are. And my last green that I'm going to add to all the spaces, I'm going to mix green and dark blue. So I got a little dark blue, scooted that over, mixing it. It's going to give me of a dark tealy green almost. And once again, we're going to add it just amongst the other little leaves. And that one's really going to show up on top of that light green building if you need. Oh, tappies. A little bit. And a little bush. And then in the grass. Small brush for grass. Same color though. Okay guys, we're getting towards our last little steps. Let's put this little detail on our bridge. I'm going to use my small brush into a little bit of white paint. And then I'm going to kind of choose just one side of each brick. And then I'll do the right hand side. And I'll just do a little, just on the edge of each brick. Just gives a little highlight. You can take off a little of that extra. You can sweep. I have barely any paint on my brush. Look, it took off all the extra. You can scratch it on that little line at the bottom. It's kind of like a little reflection of the water on your bridge. And my example over there doesn't have it, but we've added it in the past and it looks really nice. So in those little windows, we can do just a little highlight. Tilt that. So on just one side of each little window, sweep a little curve, and it gives it a little bit more dimension. Just gives it a little bit of that highlight. Speaking of windows, we can also add those little flowers in the window. And we're gonna do that by turning our small brush around using the back handle. And you can choose whichever colors you'd like. I did yellow, green, and red. I got the back handle into my yellow. I'm just gonna press and lift. So I'm gonna press lift, press lift, press lift. Watch out for your other colors. Those little dots. One's kind of hard to see. Little dots. So little flowers in the windowsills. I'll do kind of all my yellows at the same time. Then I'll wipe off that back handle, and then I'll do some red just amongst my yellow in there too. I'll wipe off my brush, and then some green. Like the leaves. There we are. While we are dotting with the back handle, that's what we did for these little flowers in our grasses also. So you can get a little bit of color. I might choose maybe red. And over here in our grass, we can add little flowers in the grass. You can put some up there, you can do a different color, some yellow. And then you can add some in the little bush over here too, if you want. Some little flowers. And then while we are adding on little dots, you can also add some little stars in your sky. Same little trick with the back handle. Just every once in a while. You can do yellow ones too, also are kind of nice, little yellow stars. Every once in a while. Look. And then our last little step are our lights. lights in the trees. Now these are kind of hung, kind of loop, kind of hanging down, but I feel like the ones at the Riverwalk, we have a lot of ones that hang down a little bit more, so I'll show you both ways. So I'm going to switch back to the brushy part of my small brush, and I put a little bit of white on there. And if you want to do these kind of little scallopy ones, find where you'd like to start. I'm going to kind of go up above here, and I'm going to tap them on. So I'm going to tap. So it's kind of like a little game. You want them pretty close, but not really touching the little dots. Right, and then get a little bit more. And then you can hang it down, and then they go up. And then you can also add little hanging ones. So I'm guiding them down. Little hanging ones. If you wanted, you could also wrap some lights around a tree. You don't have to. It's optional. Things like that. Now we're gonna add all the lights that we want. So those lights are our last little step. We can put a little artist signature as well. Usually right hand corner is like the artsy place to put it, but wherever you like. I usually put my initials, but you can put your name, you can put the date, whatever you like. Thank you again so much, everyone. Thank you so much for painting with us today. I hope you had a good time, and I hope you can join us again. Thank you so much, guys. Happy holidays!